Hey,
Hey,
hey, how are you?
doing
It's
another
been a
thing.
minute, man.
Here she
I
is.
know. How
Good
are
to
you?
see
Happy
you.
Monday.
Happy Monday.
Hi, everybody. We're alive. It's
Hello.
awesome. Oh, so much going on. So much to talk about. So much to talk about. So many things. So much to do. So much to say. So much to catch up on. How are you, Angie? How has your
I
Monday been?
am well. My
Yeah,
Monday was very Monday.
yeah. I'm sorry.
Yes. No, I'm not complaining. Like the weather broke. It was like 68 degrees here. It was amazing. Turned all my fans off, turned off the air conditioner, opened the
Lucky,
windows.
lucky. It's been
Yes.
in the triple digits here for like the last
I
5 days.
can't.
I can't deal
I
with it.
cannot
Cannot
deal
deal with
with
it.
that.
No, not at all. So
I'm a
yeah,
20-degree girl. Fahrenheit.
I hear you. I hear that. I hear that. I hear that.
How
So
about
guys,
yourself?
yeah. So it's been crazy. It's been a Monday. It's been fine. Let's just jump right into it, shall we?
Do
Because we're
it.
here. Yeah. So
Let's jump like into ocean water
yeah, except that it's clean ocean water
without oil semen.
without anything.
Uh,
Oh man, always comes back to that, doesn't it?
we're just gonna
Um,
start off early. You guys have
yeah,
missed
yeah.
us.
So thanks for coming for our new time, guys. That's the first thing. We'll be doing our Mondays and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. PDT because I am now working. Yay! Today is the beginning of my second
Rest of
week.
your life.
Yeah, at my new job. I am a medical records clerk slash supervisor for a medical supply company, which is awesome. And I'm in my training right now, but we're gonna have to we'll go into this in a little bit because I am finding this whole experience to be really interesting. So this is me back at work after 7 years out of the workforce. And it's a very rigid hours. I work 8 to 5, and thankfully, I only work about 10 minutes away, 15 minutes away from home, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the first job I've probably had in 20 plus years that's not been in academia or higher education, which is also quite interesting for me. But I do like it a lot so far. I mean, it's been a week and 1 day. So, I mean, and I'm still training, but everybody's lovely. And my friend just, how's the job going? she just texted me. And it's, everybody's lovely. The work is not difficult. There's just a ton of it. So, we are a medical supply company that mainly specializes in prosthetics and orthotics. So, and we are the headquarters. My office is the headquarter location for we serve the 7 Western states. So, and we do out of that location, we have a sales force that's in the field. We partner with hospitals, with doctors' offices, practices, blah, blah, blah. But in my location, we have all the billing, all the collections, all the work order processing, all of that stuff. And we get it for 7 states. So there's a ton of work. So right off the bat, my first impression was that I've worked in libraries for over 20 years and I've never seen so much fucking paper in my life. Like, it's unfucking believable how much paper there is. Paper everywhere. Like, we are not in a paperless society at all, like at all. And I knew there was going to be a lot of paper because my mom is a medical biller. She does a medical billing for a very large multi-facility practice, and she's got paper everywhere in her, like files everywhere. So I knew paper was going to be around. There's going to be paper.
You were not prepared for the paper.
Not prepared for the amount of paper that. And it's endless. It's endless. Mm-hmm. Like right now, what I'm doing is prepping work orders to go to the billers. And that is basically when we get, like when you go to the hospital or you see a doctor and they put in, they give you like, say, a brace for your knee or some kind of device or, appliance for yourself. Mm-hmm. And they will have to bill your insurance for it. So we get the order for that. And it's not just the brace, anything that needs to be, like if it's a prosthetic, it needs to be fitted, anything like that, anything that needs to be billed to your insurance or to you for having it, we get that work order. And then it's up to us to check all. We check it all in and make sure that there's not an existing file for the patient. If there is, there's a whole process. And then after I get it and do all that, it goes to the billers, who then will follow up with the insurance companies and or the patient. And then collections. It goes to collections if there's. So my role in this mess is that. When something may come back, kicked back from from an insurance company or from an insurance company or something that won't pay it or will not say they're eligible because they need something from their medical record. Part of their medical record might be missing, or there's something in the medical record notes that needs to be explained or pulled. The billers will come to me and say, we need medical records for X, Y, and Z. And then I have to go figure it out where they are. So I have to call the doctors, I got to call the patients, I got to call these people. So that's my role. And unlike the billers and collectors who all work for different regions, because there's the Sierra Nevada region, and then there's the Oregon part. I do that for everybody. So all 7 states come to me when they need that done. So I haven't started that part of my job yet. I probably won't start that until the end of the month. But yeah, I mean, I like being busy, so this is fine. Okay. So right now it's a lot of data entry and processing, which is fine. I have no problem with that. And it's, I think people grossly underestimate how much I can just do a repetitive action and not be bothered by it. Because they let us listen to music or they let us have our headphones in or earbuds in. So I just put my earbuds in, put my head down, and my piles of paper keep coming. And I process about 250 to 300 files a day, which is a lot. But, that's what you need to have done, because when I tell you, I go into one office for one regional director's office where I pick up my pile of paper to work on. And it's just, there's piles of it everywhere. It's just everywhere. There's stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks of work orders that needs to be processed. So it's just never ending. So, it's definitely not boring in the sense, I mean, I get to listen to podcasts, I get to listen to music, and I'm perfectly happy with that. I don't have to supervise anybody, which is awesome, because
that's nice.
98% of my job or day was spent supervising people and then not being able to do my job until after 5 o'clock or home. So it's just I feel like I need to be deprogrammed from academia, coming back into working into the real world with real people or real job people. So they're 8 a.m. You have to be at your desk ready to go. That's what 8 a.m. start time means, right? So that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I I'm up early anyway. I'm exercising. I get to work around 7:30. So that means I can dick around and get my shit together and get my coffee, my water, everything. And then I punch in, not punch in, we have a clock, we clock in. And, everybody clocks in at 8 o'clock. There's a break at 10 and 3. Everybody gets up at 10, goes to take a break. Lunch is from noon to 1. I've never seen anything like it. Everything just, because in academia, it's whatever,
right.
You get there when you get there, you make your own hours, blah, blah, blah. It's and 5 o'clock hits and this place empties out. And I'm just this is amazing. This is a foreign concept. So I love that. I love that. I completely love it. then there was this whole thing where in orientation they were telling us about how so a couple things. So all bonuses or raises or whatever are all merit based, right? Which is amazing because that's not an academic thing. Like you just usually get a cost of living raise or whatever your union negotiates for you, or like the other thing is like possibly your division or department may be given a certain percentage of money and it can get split up however, but it's generally not merit based, like because it's just that doesn't, like, not a lot of places in academia do that, but this is all merit based, which is awesome. And they pull numbers they pull everyone's numbers and they look at numbers because everyone's got a process, and I get it. Like I have no problem with that. Like I am very great. So then they said, there was an email, like today was a payday. So there was an email that went out today saying I guess the collections department hit some goals that they needed to hit. So everybody gets a $250 bonus.
Nice.
I was like, all right, cool. I mean, I'm assuming, I don't know anything about it, but the way it read to me was they are pulling in money, like they are getting payments that are due and they're hitting targeted numbers that they need to bring in every month or every pay, so this is what they get, which is awesome. Like that's incentive. I would be thrilled to get another $250 in my paycheck.
Yes.
Just for doing my job pretty much.
Yes.
I mean,
that's nice. At my job,
yeah.
At my job, the supervisors of departments get bonuses, and they are allowed to share their bonuses with their staff at their leisure, and they choose not to.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, that's like the my favorite academia is like you get a 1% raise, a big fucking deal.
Yes,
yes.
Yes, 5% is the max.
Or the library will get 3% from the university, and they have to split that however that means. Right? So this is what I'm used to. Or you get a cost of living that's like a 2% raise, right? Whatever. Yes. So my favorite part, actually, though, was during orientation, they were telling us about if you're late 4 times and you haven't called or gotten excused or, let somebody know ahead of time or something, you become bonus ineligible for the year. Bonus raise ineligible for the year. And I was like, that is fucking brilliant. I was like, that is amazing. Why can't we do that other places? Because
at my job, if you're late 3 times, that's an absence. If you're absent so many times, that's a write-up. You're written up 3 times, you're out of there.
Well, in my previous jobs, you could be late to work 45 minutes every day and nobody would do anything about it
for 10 years later.
So, I mean,
until a certain person got hired.
Right. This to me was amazing. This is amazing to me. And I'm talking to my library friends and I'm telling them this and I'm like, okay, everybody prepare yourself. Listen to this. And they were blown away, and they felt the same way. They were like, are you serious? And I'm like, no, isn't that great? And they're like, yes. Anybody who manages people in an academic environment is probably like, this is so fucking brilliant, because there's very little incentive that you can really give to people other than losing their jobs. But even that can be a joke depending upon how long the process is to lose your job. So to hear something like that, I was just like, what? I was stunned, just absolutely stunned by that. And then this is also the first job that I've ever worked that I qualify for overtime, because I'm not an exempted employee, which is cool. I'm still in my probationary period, so I don't think I can ask to work overtime. There's plenty of overtime work. Right now, there are plenty of folks working Saturdays right now because there's just so much work to have. So it's just an endless amount. There's all this paper everywhere. So I don't think I can do it yet, but I could probably in the future, if I said, even if I'm doing my medical records thing and I'm fine with that, I'm sure if I said, guys, I don't mind processing or prepping files on a Saturday if you want me to come in, they'd probably be down with that. But like, I've already worked, like I said, I got paid today for last week. Or no, for the previous period, I worked one day in that. Their pay periods are weird. It's like a Wednesday to something. It's like, anyway, I got paid for 16 hours because I get 2 days and then 3 hours of overtime, which I don't even remember working. Like, I think it's just because like, depending on when you clock in and when you clock out, it's just, and nobody says anything because like my boss was just like, as long as you're working, like obviously don't go work 5 hours overtime unless you clear it first. But like, coming, clocking in at like 7:50 and working is fine,
Right.
So it's just like a whole other world of like actual accountability that is so lacking in any place that I've actually worked prior. Like,
just remember the politics stays the same. It all sucks. And
I mean, there's still politics, but I am not high enough on the chain anymore to be really involved in the politics, which is fine.
Shit always rolls downhill.
Girlfriend, I just keep my headphones on, my head down. I don't talk to anybody really because there's too much work. And that's the thing. Nobody really is like, it's amazing. I walk around like so it's a cube farm, obviously. And right now I'm in a training center, right? But doing the same exact work I'd be doing if I was on the floor, but I'm in the training area. And I walk around watching what people are doing, and people are just working. Like there's no like water cooler connection. Like nobody's chilling out doing nothing. Like if they're in cubes, they both have like phone headsets on the phone, talking to something. Like they're working. Like the 10-minute breaks or 15-minute breaks are when people like will, and lunch are when people will generally like powwow. There's not a lot of like, I mean, it's like, it's almost like everybody has a work ethic. It's amazing. It's just like, I mean, if I was getting a bonus based on how much do the work, get the fuck out. Right. Exactly. Thank you. Colleen, you would not believe this. If I took you to work with me for one day, you'd be like, what the fuck? It's, it is very much like if I was being paid bonuses to hit numbers, target numbers, my ass would be in my chair fucking like working too to hit that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, so it's just really, really different. And I was saying to Scott earlier or last, but it's like, in higher ed, everybody has a degree, right? Everyone has an education. So it's all about posturing, and it's a lot of like, it's a pissing contest and who plays the game better and who's got, who brings in this grant money or who's got these nut letters after their name or who does this, who publishes. It's like all about, it's a big egocentric kind of like one-upmanship situation because, everybody, like with the except, well, even like, I can't even say with clerical or admin staff, there's a lot of people who just have degrees who stick around and work in universities. So it's like, it means that almost means nothing because you're like you're starting on a playing field where everybody has the same credentials, right? Ain't that the truth about higher? Yeah, Laura, definitely. Everybody has the same credentials. So it's like, you're not impressing anybody by like, blah, blah, blah. So it's all about like what you're doing there. And so you're playing this game. It's all bullshit, like socializing, playing a game. Not so much like, do I get work done? It's more like, do I make the university and my department look really good with whatever I'm doing, in this environment, it's like, just do I get my work done? Like, who gives a shit? I don't care what degree, education, whatever you have. Are you processing are you getting billing done? Are you getting like your processing? Like, and I respect that a hell of a lot more than, the 19-hour days of having to deal with other people's bullshit all day and then having to try to do the work I'm supposed to be doing plus playing the bullshit socializing game where I have to attend events and deal with the bullshit prior to the event and then the bullshit after the event where I have to like kiss ass and talk to, and it's just exhausting. And I was saying to my boss, I was like, when I was in my 20s, that was great because I was like really into my job and I was really like loving that kind of lifestyle. But, it's just not compatible with my life right now. I have a family, I have a husband, I have a life at home. I don't want to spend, I don't want to spend longer than 9 hours at my job. Like, that's it. I want to go in, I want to clock in, clock out, come home and not think about it because I have other priorities now. And I mean, that's valid. Like, I'm totally for everybody who wants to play the higher ed game or the game with their jobs, with their careers, like that important. But for me, like, I just feel that, one, I did it for like 20 years already. Two, I just I don't have the energy or patience for it anymore. Like, I want to focus on this stuff over here. And it's like, I don't feel like sacrificing. And, I said to my house, like, I'm like, am I an idiot because I'm like not using my education? Like, my mom liked to get on my ass about that a lot while I was home. Like, you spent all this money getting your master's degrees and like, and you're not using them and blah, blah. And I'm like, you know what? I used them for quite some time and I'm really burnt out from that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with going to just like a job and, putting your time. I mean, like, I think that even I was guilty at some point in my life of like the snobbery that comes with being highly educated, right? Like, you think that, anybody who's not working in higher ed or not using like, their intelligence or whatever. And it's like, bitch, you know what? If these people weren't billing your fucking insurance company, you wouldn't have the crutches that you need to walk down, like, to get around your house. Like, all these jobs are important. It's just how you choose to look at them. So I'm like, whatever, pay me. Like, I'll do it. Like,
I think that there's something to be said for, number one, you got the value out of your education. In 20 years, you certainly got the value out of your education. Number two, you utilize the skills that you learned, and you utilize those skills every day in your everyday life, even now.
Right.
And just because, who's to say that just because you have these master's degrees that you can't change your career? Everybody does. Right. Everybody does. You are not tied to this one career because you have a master's degree in library. I'm assuming library science.
Yeah, I have one in library science and one in IS.
And you're not tied to that.
No, and it's funny because
what if you wanted to be a CNA? What if you wanted to become an artist? Like, you're not just your career.
No. And it's funny because a lot of people, at least when I started library school back in the day, that was considered the change in profession. Librarianship was the second profession, was the change of profession for a lot of people. Over the years, over my time, I've seen that younger people are going more, like, I went right from undergrad to grad library school. That was not the norm when I went. It was more like a change of profession, or folks who may have worked in libraries who then decided to go ahead and get the degree. It's changed a lot, but I definitely am of the mindset, like, I could decide to go back to school in 10 years from now and just do something.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm fine with that. And even my boss was like, when your kids get older, you might want to go back to doing what you did. And I'm like, yeah, I might not. Like, I mean, I think, like, it's really, really, unless you've managed a large number of people, unless you've managed more than one person, it has to be more than one person, unless your one person is a real freaking problem. But unless you've managed multiple people, it's really hard to just fully explain how much time, effort, energy, anxiety, stress, everything goes into that part of a job.
Mhm.
Like I said, I would go into work at like 9 o'clock, 8:30, 9 o'clock. And if I was in my office long enough to get something done, I would be lucky. I would do the work that I needed to do would be done at night or after 5 o'clock or whenever people weren't around. But even that's not true because in a 24-hour library, Collins, it's so shitty. It is shitty. It's absolutely shitty. So much. And I really, I didn't love it then that I had to take a lot of this home. And
It's a
I'm not even
thankless
talking,
job.
I'm not even talking about like the paperwork, like the administrative work, the planning, the strategic plan. I'm talking about just the fucking mental baggage of the anxiety, stress, aggravation, of like, oh fuck, I have to have this meeting with tomorrow with so and so to talk about this fucking personnel issue, and I really, and just having to carry that with you home
all the time,
all the time, is just so exhausting, and it's just so it burns you out so incredibly fast. Like
I agree with you also, Laura.
Yes, the expectation, the more years of experience you have, the more you're expected to be in management. Yeah, I mean, Scott was joking around with me. He's like, they're going to end up seeing eventually that you can be management and they're going to promote you at some point. I'm like, I don't want to be promoted. I really want to just be, and I said this from back after I stopped working. I said, if I ever went back to libraries, I would just like put me in reference, put me someplace where I just report to somebody else. I don't have people reporting to me. I don't want to deal with people's issues because that is like what you're dealing with. Problem children. Yeah, exactly. Your problem children follow you everywhere. They're always in your head, always. And it's like, I wish that it was competence is always punished. Yeah, really, or rewarded. I wish it was a situation where I was like thrilled to have certain people working for me and I could focus on the good people and be like, I'm going to make X, Y, and Z happen for this. But that shit is so few and far between when you're a manager that like you jump on that like crazy and you hold that so close because like 9 out of 10 interactions are not that. And it's amazing. I know. And like, so I'm going to do another, there's going to be an upcoming stream at some point. I had gotten into a conversation with somebody on Twitter who works at, I believe it's University of Pennsylvania. It's either UPenn or Temple. I can't remember off the top of my head because I haven't looked at it. And she made a comment about library management style. And we got into a big conversation about like how it's like avoidance. And it's like it's like a strategy for managing in libraries and how this affects everything, right? And so we're going to do a stream on this. I think her and I, you're welcome to be there too. We're going to talk about like no, but like it's a very library specific thing.
Yes, absolutely.
And I was like, would you really be willing to talk about this? Because like, oh my God, I haven't talked about this shit in so long. And now I remember why I don't want to work in libraries anymore. But it was a great conversation because like I lived it. Like we are all living this. Like those of us who worked in management lived this. Like it's almost like I said, it's like avoidance is almost or ignorance or ignoring problems is like almost an actual management style that's adopted by administration. And I'm sure it's not just in libraries, but like that's our profession. And it just seems to me to be very disproportionate with the rest of the world that I've seen. But like, let me give you a perfect example of what I'm talking about. And I said this to her. I said, my favorite thing, because we're talking about how all this shit leads to like a crumbling infrastructure, really poisonous morale issues that are really actually important. How people who work in the lower, the lower at the bottom of the chain, like know that the infrastructure is crumbling, but nobody wants to hear about it. And we're just asked to do more with less, or more with like keeping it kept together with like bubblegum paper clips and some like tape, right? And I've lived through all of that. And but let me give you this perfect example. I've given the late performance example to you before, but let me give you this example. I was working in my first management position when I was working in New York. And one day, she was kind of like the financial officer, but she was also like the administrative person for the library. So she did all she was like our HR person / like finance, budgeting person. Like she handled all the administrative kind of back end stuff. And part of that was paying bills, or looking at bills that the library gets. So we're a state institution. And we get phone bills, obviously, but we get like discounted rates because we're a state institution. But because we're also a state institution, we get very detailed phone records. And she walks up to my desk one day and she's like, "We have a problem." And I'm like, "Really? What is it?" She throws a folder down on my desk, and it's 3 months of phone bills that show my evening supervisor is spending, she's got an 8-hour shift at night, probably spending 7.5 hours on the phone, which means she's not supervising the students. She's not watching the desk. She's not doing her job if you're on the phone for 7.5 hours. And so I'm like, oh my God, like, let me look at this, blah, blah. So I'm looking at this and it's like every single night for 3 months. So finally I go to her. I'm like, "So how long has this been going on for?" And I shit you not, she hands me 3 years worth of phone records that have the same pattern of behavior on them. And I'm like, do you see my face right now? This is what I was like, 3 years. Like, you knew this has been going on for 3 years. And now I'm here. Like, were you waiting for me to come to deal with it? I guess you were, because like,
Same.
I replaced somebody. There was somebody in this job for like 20 years before I got here. And apparently nobody, I just like, I don't get it at all. Like, I don't get it on several levels. I don't get it on the level of, one, just allowing that to happen for 3 years. I don't get it on the level of allowing the boss of this person to pretend like it's not happening for 3 years. I also kind of don't get it on the level of this person who handed me the phone bills, knowing it's been happening for 3 years and not pushing for something to happen. And it's not, let me just straight out say this. It's not a question of cost, because it was pennies. Like, it was not, she wasn't calling long distance. It was time. It was paying her salary and her not doing her job. So like, that is a perfect example of what is like, had become a norm. So that was like literally my first management position. And from there, it just got worse. It just got to a place where, I had issues like that. I go to my next job. I have people who are consistently late every single day, but I go and get their performance evaluations, and they have gotten the most beautiful, wonderful. They're such great people to work with. They've been here for 10 years, but you know what? It's a running joke in the department where people are placing bets on if they're going to show up for work today, early or not, or on time, because that's how known the problem is. So it's like, this is what, I know Kyle's like, knowing the people, I'm dying, right? But like, this is what we're talking about. Like, this is what you are dealing with. And to not be in that position where this is my problem is like amazing. I can't even explain to you how, like, I just can't, it's having had to handle that. She's like, no, Colleen, before you even got there, I fired 10 people my first year, and then you came and we fired some more. But I fired 10 people in my first year and a half there, thinking after the first 3, maybe they'd get a clue and would get their shit together, and like, I wasn't joking around. But apparently not. But I mean, like, that is the perfect, those are just two examples of countless issues that are like that. Colleen had a fucking staff person threaten her life. I mean, like, these are like, this is the outlandish shit, yet these people still have jobs. Like, that's the thing.
Mhm.
Colleen spent a year and a half documenting the incredibly bad performance of somebody who had incredibly bad performance, has been working in the library for 20 years. It's not just that we got there, her performance was terrible. It was just that, nobody wanted to deal with it. But, we fired her. She fought. We had to go to a freaking hearing for it. She got hired back. And after Colleen and I left, what happened? They fired her anyway. But we're the assholes. So, I mean, like, but, like, it's funny now, but, like, the stress of having to go through a freaking hearing with HR, to sit there and have to have these conversations where you're being painted as a horrible person because you're trying to enforce some kind of policies, some kind of, like, level of competency or expectation on people who apparently, they've never had any expectations, they've never been held to any kind of standards or expectations. So you're the asshole and you're the bad person.
Right.
And, and getting very, I mean, honest to God, like, for most of it, we got really good support. But part of what the conversation that me and this person were having was the fact that you get very often, you don't get. We were very fortunate that we had the support of administration, but a lot of people in our situations don't get that support. They, and they're not going to get it, because if they were going to get that support, they would have done something about these people a while ago. Like, it's a very non-confrontational environment. And, I don't know how it stays that way, because it's really gone are really the days now where you can say, we're just going to put that person in the back and they're going to do, because it's not about that anymore. The work is not about a lot of that anymore. So having said all of that, just to not be a part of that anymore is like amazing. Like, I feel like I have absolutely no issues going to work. Like, I'm, I had my first kid came strategically at a good point, because I was burnt out and I was really hating everything. It took me my entire pregnancy and probably the first 6 months of her being born, realizing that I did not have to go back to work and deal with other people for a long time. Like, it was just like, it didn't hit me that I didn't work anymore. Like, I was so used to being in this level of high stress anxiety and worrying about other people that, it took a long time to get used to. So now to go back into a work environment and be like, I don't have to worry about anybody. I go click, hit, punch in, punch out, I'm out. It's like, one of my friends texted me yesterday. I'm like, I love it. I'm like, I'm the wrong person to ask about anything, because I'm like, it's fine. Like, I'm cool with it. Like, I listen to my podcast. I process my 300 files a day. I'm fine with it. I'm like, and it's funny, because I used to say the same thing about my clerks in the library who would complain, because obviously, and I'm going to get this, I'm going to come back around to this in a minute, but just bear with me on this. That, they have nothing to really complain about, because they're not out. The last time I checked, they weren't outside in the heat digging a ditch around the building. They are in air conditioning. They have a relatively easy job to do. They're not physically demanding. And, I'm sorry that asking you to show up on time for your job is so painful to you. Like, I just, after adjusting your schedule 6 times to try to accommodate that, like, I'm so sorry. And, so just to bring us back. So, like, last week, in the middle of last week, we had gotten into a conversation. So, like, we're new. It's like there was like 4 or 5 of us who were in this group of new people. And, we were talking about something, we were joking around, and then we were talking about another person was saying how, like, their last job was so rigid and so horrible. And I was like, yeah, I feel like I need to be deprogrammed from working in academia, because, it's so weird that people just, like, go to work and they do their job, like, and there's like scheduled times for things. Oh God, the lady didn't come to work if it rained. Yeah, that's true. We had one of those. And somebody who had been there for about 6 months was telling us how much she hated it working there. And and I was like, we were very surprised by this. She's like, and I didn't really hear a lot of it because I was trying to do 12 things at once. But something about like higher ups being two-faced or something like that, and then the having to hit your numbers of processing files and folders, having to process files, and I'm like, and I kind of like was like blowing it off because I'm like, whatever, two-faced upper management. I'm like, I'm sure I've been called worse than that in my days as a manager, and like whatever. So I have very, very specific feelings about what you can call a manager or whatnot. I see it from a different perspective. Let's just put it that way. And as far as hitting numbers goes, this is all we do is numbers. So I don't know why you'd be complaining about that unless you really just didn't want to do your job. Like you wouldn't like it. And, it also goes back to my whole thing, which I used to say a lot, was like, if you don't like your job, go find another one. Like nobody's keeping you here. I will happily help you find a new job. Right. So I got into my feelings a little bit about this because this is kind of also what started this whole, like, am I an idiot for taking a job like this? Like, why would somebody say that to somebody who's just been here for literally 3 days, right?
Because people are miserable.
Right. But by the time I got home, let me explain to you. And I was talking to my boss about this today, and she was like, all right, I'll get to this in a second. By the time I got home from that day of being like, why the fuck? I was like, my whole attitude had changed from being in my feelings about it to being like completely self-righteous and being like, I now know and feel completely vindicated every single fucking time I dragged somebody's ass into my office to chew them out for having a shitty attitude, for being negative, for gossiping, and for talking shit about people on the job. Because if this person who talked to me for 5 minutes was able to make me feel so shitty, can you imagine spending 8 hours a day listening to somebody like this, but then multiplying it by like 5-10 people doing this? Mm-hmm. That's how shitty workplaces also become. So I was like, so to everybody who's watching this in library land right now, or who watches this later, or anybody in management, especially my library management people, I'm telling you right now, do not ever feel bad that you got to talk to anybody about their shitty attitude, because it totally is something. It's a thing. Like it is. Shitty attitudes are a thing. So, and here's the funny part. This came up in conversation this morning with my boss. I didn't bring it up. She brought it up. And she's like, yeah, I heard about this. And I was like, really? Because I didn't say anything to you about it. And I know the other person who was standing there didn't say anything about it. But then I realized that the person who was bitching and moaning was doing it in front of everybody in the fucking room. So who the hell knows who said what about it? But I was like, 2 lessons learned here today. 1, people talk about everything and everybody hears everything. So I'm not going to, I tend not to open
office politics. Yeah.
Office. I don't talk. Like I know, because
I just say
the other thing that happened
everywhere you go.
It is. And the other thing that hammered it home to me was that people used to come into my office all the time complaining about shit. And I'd be like, yeah, I know that already. And they'd be like, how do you know? I'm like, because you motherfuckers all tell on each other. Like you all come into my office and talk shit about each other. I was like, that's why I know. I don't even have to leave my office to find out what's going on, because it always comes back to me. So good to know it's everywhere. It's not just in the library. Mm-hmm. So yeah. So those are like my big takeaways from working in the real world.
That is just so funny.
It's amazing. Like there's a huge difference. Like they don't call it an ivory tower for nothing. It really is like its own fucking world with its own issues. But a lot of their issues do happen in reality. I think the thing is, or in outside of academia, but I think the way that we approach the 2 sides approach things are much differently, are different. You know, and it's part of it's like private organizations, private institutions can handle things a certain way, whereas public state funded, taxpayer funded places can't, right?
Right.
But I really and truly, even in my state funded, taxpayer paid jobs, don't understand why I have to do a song and dance for 6 months to fire somebody for coming in late every single day. Like that should not be something that has to happen. Like that's how I feel. Because we all know if they were working at McDonald's, they would have been fired after the third time. If they even made it to a third time. Like, let's be honest.
Exactly.
Here.
Exactly.
And, not only do I have to take a 6-month process of documenting, this includes me having to change their schedule to try to work with their life. Why do I have to put forth such immense effort for something that's job 101 that you should be able to handle as an adult, right? Who wants to have a paycheck. Right. So, there's similarities, but the differences lie in how they deal with those similarities. And I much, much prefer it where I'm on the side that I'm on now. It's less stressful for everyone. Like, if I could have just fired people after like the second or third offense,
it would be a different story.
It would have been a different story. I mean, and the thing is that when you're in a situation like that, the staff already know you can't do much. Like, they know. So they're going to push it and they're going to take advantage of it. And they know. And especially if they've gotten away with it for 10 years. Well, what the fuck should I do right now? What are you going to do? Yeah. So it's interesting. It's been really interesting. It's been 1 week and I'm already like, my head is like, wow. I mean, but, again, I go back to this thing with like, because my boss did the same thing. She's like, if you're that miserable where you feel like you need to tell everybody how miserable you are or how miserable this place makes you, find someplace else to work.
Find a new job.
And I
don't understand it.
And I come back to, you get to sit here for 8 hours and have your headphones on and listen to music or a podcast or whatever.
But it's not everybody's jam. It's not everybody's jam.
Nobody's bothering you.
But personalities conflict and people have a certain sense of entitlement about things. And this may be the kind of person who just doesn't want to work and feels entitled and doesn't want to work or, whatever. Or, they didn't get that bonus or they, whatever. Who knows?
I don't know.
Who knows? Maybe you won't end up liking your boss by the end of the month. Who knows?
If I didn't like my boss, I wouldn't, if I've had, what do you think? I've never had a boss I didn't like. My thing is like, my attitude towards my job has always been, I just want to do my job. Like, that's all I want. I want to do whatever you hired me to pay. And, unfortunately, as my years progressed and my experience progressed, what I became hired to do was to fire people and turn ill functioning departments around. That was my professional reputation. Now, I milked it because that's what people want. And I'm, not for nothing, I was good at it. Like, I was, because I know you're going to find this hard to believe, but I'm not a non-confrontational person. Like, I do not have a problem pulling somebody in my office and being like, what the fuck is wrong with you? So, I will deal with it because I have no choice. And because your fuck up is fucking me up. And that when you're fucking me up, that's when we have a problem. And if I have to manage a 24/7 operation and I have 40 people working for me and you're fucking it up for like 20 other people, I got to deal with that regardless of whether I want to or not. Except that I happen to work in a profession where apparently your option is to not deal with that. Pretend it doesn't matter. Like, I'm just not that person. So I was fine with presenting, writing, talking about this very openly because I felt like a huge problem within the profession was that we don't talk about these things and we don't teach people or empower people to manage and to confront and have really shitty conversations. I mean, you can have a shitty conversation. It doesn't mean it has to be shitty. Like, it's just, you're not going to feel great about it, but it just needs to be an awful experience. But and there are, you blueprint it out. Like there's scripts you can write. There's things. I mean, there's definitely a process that makes it less shitty. And then people never believed me until after it happened. But after the third or fourth time, you don't care anymore. It's like you don't feel anything anymore, especially if it's the same fucking person. You just don't. Which it's not that I'm a hard ass. It's just like I can't fucking believe I'm having this conversation again. So my attitude is now like, what the fuck, people?
I'm done.
Right, exactly. I'm done. If you're not going to give a shit enough that we have to sit here again, I'm not going to give a shit enough. I'll tell, but like I will always hold up my end of the bargain though, which is here's what you need to be successful. Here's what it looks like to be successful. Here's what is clearly stated is what success looks like. And I will give you what you need or help you get it. So tell me what the problem is. Let's fix it. That will always come from my side. I will always make good on that. But if you don't give a shit, don't expect me to give a shit because my job is not I'm not supposed to be doing your job. My job is to make sure you're doing your job.
Right.
And so to go into a job that I don't have to worry about any of this shit is like amazing. Like I just wish I could. I'm going to feel this way for a while. Like I really am. I really am. And it was so funny.
And you deserve to.
It's so funny because during my interview, my two people that interviewed me seemed a hell of a lot more interested in hearing about this shit than like any of my ability or skill. They were like, so tell us more.
Because Scott's right. They're like listening to your common sense and your management abilities, and they're just like waiting. They're just waiting. And they're going to be so disappointed when you're like, nope. No, thank you. I'm setting a boundary, and that boundary is don't ever ask me to be management in this company ever again.
It has, at this point, it has less to do with managing and more about the time investment. It's the emotional and time investment.
Don't tell them that because they'll try to sell you a bill of goods and then they'll.
No, I'm not doing it. Like my kids are still young. I still have my, I straight up, in the interview straight out said to them, I was like, my goal was to find a job that I come in, do my job and leave. Like I didn't want to have to worry about anybody. I didn't want to have to, the only person I want to worry about is myself. That's it. Hey, Toasty. What's up, pal? Toasty. Long time no see. Glad to see you. So that's what I've been doing for the last. So the week prior to last week was when I was tearing my house apart in preparation for not being here during the day, and I thought I was going to die. Thanks, Laura.
Take care, Laura.
I'm glad you caught us. Catch us on Wednesday, and definitely catch us Monday and Wednesday of next week. We got some really good, or catch us on a replay, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. We got some good topics coming up. Trust.
Good stuff coming up.
We got some good stuff. And always, people, we actually really believe that the stuff we've talked about prior is also really good. Like I go back and re-listen. Check out some of the older episodes that are available on Twitch. I don't think they don't keep them up very long on Twitch, but everything is available on our YouTube channel. I'll Take the L. Everything's there. Our beginning, I'm sorry, our content's good, guys. I'm sorry. I mean, I got to pat myself on the back. I got to give Angie a high five. We got good content. This is the best content. I'm very proud of the content we put out.
And it's only going to get better.
Yes, it really is. So what was I saying? So yeah, so I was tearing my house apart, which made me feel like I was going to die. The office is almost like you can see that a lot of the shit's gone. We have new furniture coming. We cleaned everything out, so we're going through this massive it's not a renovation. It's more like a massive cleaning out, remodel, redecorating, purging. Yeah. So that's what I did the week prior to starting my job, so that I could start my job and not feel like my house was like an insane place to live. So that's what I've been up to. I think that's enough. Angie, now you've been dealing with, talk to me, because we haven't spoken in very much in the last 2 weeks. I know you've been doing your mind, you've been in your head, you've been thinking things, you've been working through stuff. If you feel like you want to share a little bit, please do. We talked in private yesterday, but like,
Yes,
I
yes,
always think that it's relevant to what we talk about here. So if you feel like sharing a little bit, feel free. If not, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I just wanted you to give your life update because you've had 2 weeks. It's been 2 weeks. Dude.
I know. I have not been doing too much as you, nearly. Just been here in my house, taking care of my mental health, and just learning more about myself, learning more about just still learning about health at every size. I don't know. We haven't really talked much about that lately, and we haven't really talked about like, I have to say, I really have enjoyed the journey we've been on with our content and with our podcasts. But for anybody who hasn't been with us from the beginning, we started out kind of like on kind of a health journey, I guess you would say.
I think we started out on more of like I like to think of it as a perspective of overweight, being someone overweight in the world, and the topics that are relevant to us or not that don't seem relevant. And we could always backtrack. We had plans to backtrack. But I think we found like some other interests that kind of really. And I kind of am like a go with the flow person. So I always feel like whatever's interesting to us is probably interesting to other people. So but the book came today, Angie. So I'm going to start it. So we can come back to, they can put a pin on that and come back to it.
We talk about everything. Like we started off with a certain focus, and we've started to just talk about everything. But some of the things we used to talk about, or we have talked about in the past, is like health at every size and that kind of thing. And that's something that I've been learning a lot about, and my mental health and my eating disorder. I have binge eating disorder, and just I've been really just kind of dealing with that and trying to get, stay on top of my mental health. It's been
it's hard.
Difficult. Yeah, it's been difficult. And this is a new thing for me. Like I haven't ever really dug as deep as I've been digging lately. And, just finding out that, some of these things, people, including myself, have been living with a lot of trauma and a lot of pain that have just, stuffed down and just not addressed, and just, kind of like, I never thought I was one to, stuff things in boxes and compartmentalize and just like close it off and move on. And I guess I kind of was, and so I've just been kind of pulling out some boxes inside of myself and going through them. And so it actually, I missed you. I missed you a lot, and I missed our podcasting, and I missed this time together, but it's been kind of a good little break because I've been kind of, digging through some shit.
You're doing the hard work here. That's the hard work. It's the important work.
It's the hard work, and it's tedious, and sometimes I just don't want to do it, but
I hear you. I know.
Like, when you go to school for like anything in healthcare at all, just enough is just enough to be dangerous. So like you can't really stop. So I know just about enough about myself at this point to be dangerous. So it doesn't pay for me to stop now. So I may as well just keep moving through. And
this is what you got to get through. The only way to the end is to push through, or something like that, right?
Yes.
I just fucked it. The only way out is through.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So the book is Health at Every Size. I challenged Mary to read it with me, and just see what our perspective is, because it's still very
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to learning some stuff.
Words. I've learned some interesting ways to talk to myself and to change the way that I view myself and the way that I treat myself. Does it mean that I subscribe to everything? No, because I haven't learned everything there is to learn about it. And even in reading the book, like Dr. Bacon is very clear, it's not the end all be all. It's not the prescribed way to approach health at every size.
Right.
It's just really fascinating. It's just, at the end of the day, I think what you and I were both trying to get across from the jump is that regardless of what size body you're in, everybody deserves to be treated with respect and
Yes,
dignity.
absolutely.
Weight loss is not a moral obligation. Health is not a moral obligation. If I decide to eat pizza and McDonald's every day for the rest of my life, it doesn't make me a bad person. And if you eat chicken and broccoli and brown rice for the rest of your life, it doesn't make you a better or worse person. It's just food.
Yeah.
It's just food. And that's I can't move on to treating myself better and being better to myself until I can get past, like, it's just food.
Yes.
So it's just a place to start, it's just a place to start.
Absolutely. And I'm really looking forward to reading this because I'm looking forward to an actual real perspective on it instead of the social media, like polished, varnished, like filtered, whatever, very specific meaning, but not really the actual meaning of what it is, kind of perspective that seems to be pervasive everywhere we look. So yeah, I am looking forward to reading this. So I'm really glad to hear that you are doing what you're doing. I think that it's hard work, it's difficult work, it's painful work, but it's what people need to do in order to feel better, or to, whatever better is in your book, whatever that's defined as, or what that means to you. So again, I salute you for that. And that if you need anything from me, you always have me, my support, a phone call, a text, whatever it is you need from me, you just ask and I'm here.
I need popcorn chicken.
You need popcorn. Girl. I think there's some downstairs right now. So let's just, because we are, since we're doing a little later, we are on a kind of time crunch. We are kind of trying to keep to a strict time frame. So let's just jump a little.
It's going to turn into a pumpkin.
That's right. No, it's late for you. So I don't want to, and it's late in general, but I appreciate that you come on later for me. I appreciate that. I appreciate everyone who's watching that come on later. So Wednesday, we're coming back Mondays and Wednesdays, 7 p.m. Pacific. So Wednesday, we are going to have to go here and we're going to have to talk about this topic, guys. The L is going, yeah, we are. No, and you know why we're going to have to talk about this. The L is going to be for lying liars and the lies they tell. And we are going to talk, we're not going to do a deep dive, but we're going to talk about the Creepshow art situation. And listen, guys, we're not doing this because we're jumping on the bandwagon for views here, because it's a popular topic, but I'm going to tell you exactly why we're talking about this, because Monday on the 28th is our discussion of the Strictly Stalking podcast. And this is going to end up being a Monday and Wednesday. I can tell you this already, because this podcast, we mentioned last month after we did the Astray podcast that we'd like to do one every month. We picked the last Monday of the month and we talk about a podcast, and we had chosen Strictly Stalking for this month. And if you haven't been, I've been listening to it all month. And it's an extraordinarily powerful podcast. It's up to like 70 something, possibly 80 now episodes. And every episode a victim of stalking is telling their story about what they've experienced, how they've dealt with it, what the reality is. There's they have like a standard set of questions they ask everyone. For the most part, they let victims, they let them tell their stories. But there are, I'm probably going to say it's again on Monday, but there's the same question always gets asked: what would you like to see happen to your stalker? And God love these people. They are so much nicer than me. They're always all like, I'd like to see them get help. I'm like, my answer is I would like to see you shot in the head and put down 6 feet in the ground for some of the shit that these people have been through. I'm not going to even front. I've been moved to tears listening to some of these people, because the desperation, the sadness, the complete loss of everything in their lives that they've experienced from these situations, the situation these people are putting them in. Mostly strangers. Some people they do know, or acquaintances, or people in their lives, but
family members.
It's a lot. It's very heavy, and of course, as this was happening on June 6th, that week, the Creepshow art bullshit broke, which was her. We're gonna do the 5-second rundown right now. She was lying. She was faking a profile she was faking being an anonymous poster on a LOCal, which is kind of like a 4chan anonymous posting board, talking shit about herself, defending herself, and talking shit about her friends, using very slurry language that she's, in all her videos, she's very against, and very virtue signals and calls people out on the same behavior constantly that she was doing. And then as this was breaking, we find out that she's been stalking another creator, for quite some time, a number of years, while at the same time claiming that she was the victim of stalking. And of course, while this is all going on, we're listening to this podcast, and it bothers me on a lot of levels. I got to tell you, I've mentioned this to you, Angie, prior. I'm offended on the level of the fact that she would lie about being stalked. I'm grossly offended at the fact that she's a stalker. These are all allegations, but as far as I'm concerned, the evidence has been shown that by the person that she has done this. And we will get into that on Wednesday a little bit more. And again, on Monday and Wednesday, because as you'll see when we talk about this, the evidence that people need when proving stalking is very specific and has its own kind of bullshit situation that goes on with that too. So, it's infuriating in that regard. And then I'm a little more infuriated by the fact that there's been countless numbers of videos coming out in response to this creator's allegations against Creepshow Art, that her evidence sucks, that it's all circumstantial, that this doesn't sound like stalking. And it's just, I'm very calm right now because I'm tired, but yesterday I was yelling about it, and I've been yelling about it a lot because, again, when you listen to these actual victims of stalking talk about what they've endured and what they've lost at the hands of this situation, and what hurdles they've had to jump through, and what constitutes evidence versus, what constitutes evidence, what constitutes patterns of behavior. And then you compare it to what we've been presented in this particular Creepshow Art incident. I find anybody who's sitting there talking about how this is all bullshit and doesn't mean anything, I find that a little despicable. I find that a little ignorant. And frankly, I think it's a real asshole thing to say and do and talk about and make videos about, dismissing the charges, the allegations against her based on, because you don't believe the evidence is strong enough, when apparently you obviously have really no insight into what it actually means to be a victim of stalking, or, hear about just go listen to this podcast and then come back to me and talk to me about it, because I think you might have a different perspective on it afterwards. And this will be something that'll come up on Wednesday. It'll definitely be coming up on Monday and Wednesday next week. I just want to leave a thought in people's heads for a second. If you were being stalked or harassed by somebody and you felt that you were being threatened, or you were uncomfortable or made to feel unsafe or anything like that, and you had to basically go to the police or to a judge and bring your evidence, and you don't get to define what being afraid or threatened is, but the law does, or the judge does. Not you, but if the judge feels that you're being threatened or being feared, or what do they say? A reasonable person would feel upset or threatened by, which to me is like bullshit, because it should be bad enough if I feel fucking threatened. I should be able to be helped to protect myself. But, when that's all taken out of your control, and put into somebody else's hands who may not have any experience with this or may just feel differently about what you're presenting them, and you don't get any kind of resolution or help or assistance, you may feel very differently about a lot of this behavior that we're hearing discussed. So that is one of my big takeaways from this, watching the Creepshow art situation unfold, which is, it's constantly changing. Like every single day there's something else coming out, it seems. And then, juxtaposing that to listening to these actual stories of victims and survivors of stalking, it's just really hard to swallow, I think, and, hard to watch some of what's been playing out on YouTube right now. And that's my general attitude towards it. I think there's a bigger discussion also to be had with, being YouTube famous and what you owe or don't owe your audience, or what your audience feels entitled to know or entitled to, and that, and we can get into that, the whole parasocial relationship aspect of all of this. And then Angie, the video you pointed me to today with what the point of you talking about how we allow all this bullshit to play out and people get away with this depending upon who they are is also another point. So we have a lot to talk about on Wednesday. I think it's interesting. I actually am kind of tickled by the timing of all of this, because this is almost like a great this is also kind of a great example of what we see actually working, and what a success and failures look like when you're dealing with stalking. So having listened to the podcast, and now this example that apparently everybody's talking about, if you're somebody who watches YouTube, because it's like everybody's talking about it, like people who don't even normally cover this shit are talking about it because it's huge. She's lost like almost 200,000 subs at this point from it. But the lying, and it's a big pattern of behavior. I've said from the moment that this started that this is nowhere near somebody just beginning to act like this. This has been somebody who's doing this for a long time, who's been able to gaslight, manipulate, lie, be this person quite some time. I feel that her friends, I'm pretty sure her friends have no idea who they're talking to at this point. Never knew who they were talking to. They got a version of what they thought they knew who they did. But this is an interesting example to use when we talk about, to compare and contrast this situation to the other situations. I feel so strongly about what we've heard on the Strictly Stalking podcast. It's going to have to be 2 episodes, because some of these stories are amazing, and in the amazing in the great definition of that word, and the absolutely awful definition of that word. So there's a lot to take home on. And I'm speaking as someone who actually, felt like they kind of understood and knew what stalking was. But I mean, I've walked away learning a hell of a lot more than I ever thought I would learn and knew. And my eyes have been open to a lot of different insights on this. So if you haven't listened to any of it yet, go to your podcast app of choice, or listen, like, what do you call it? I can't even think of that. Like your casting software, platform of choice, and Strictly Stalking. Just put it in. The first 10 episodes are amazing. Like they just get more and more insane as they go on. But
I put the link to the spot. I put the Spotify link in because I listen on Spotify. I put links to all the resources that Simply Spotify links themselves to RAINN.org, victimconnect.org, and stalkingawareness.org. If you think you're being stalked, you're not crazy. There is help for you, and we're going to spend some time talking about this. If you have anything you'd like to share, we have an email. You can email us. You can share your story with us. As well, leading up to these next few episodes of our podcast.
just to put it out there, because I didn't think this way. I knew, but I didn't know. It was one of those things that I had to be reminded of by listening. Stalking isn't just somebody physically following you around.
Yep.
It's not just somebody sending you email. You can be stalked over the telephone. You can be stalked over mail. You can be stalked over, cyber stalked. There's any kind of unwanted interaction that's repetitive is that you feel threatened, harmed, intruded upon by, that is stalking. So the podcast does a really great job of incorporating different types of stalking into it. We have people who've been stalked via letter, through the snail mail, emails, through their phones, and obviously physically, online, all over the place. It doesn't even need to be like cyber stalking. It doesn't even need to be emails to you. It could just be like people who form Facebook groups to talk about like anything like that, where you're a target of something. This all constitutes that. So check the podcast out.
Yep.
It's really well done. And the thing that I like the most about it is that around when it started getting when it blew up, like the first 10 episodes, you were normal, thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me tell my story. Once they started blowing up and they were getting lots of submissions, it's become, thank you so much for letting me tell my story. You have no idea what this podcast means to victims, because we can tell our story and be heard and believed and know that we're not the only people who are experiencing this. And that is so powerful to me, because I did notice that the level of intensity that these thank yous for allowing us to be on ratcheted up as we got into it more and more and more. And these stories are just amazing. Like once you hear one and you're like, it can't get any worse than this, can it? And it just keeps getting, we are awful people to each other, people. We really are. We really, really are. But I'm not going to say mental health does not play a role into this also. So there's a lot of factors here. We'll get into all of that, but that's where we're going with the next 2 weeks. Wednesday, we're covering Creepshow art from a very high level of it. I think we're going to look at it. We're going to use it as an example. And then Monday and Wednesday next week, we're jumping into this topic. I think it needs to be talked about. I'm shocked that nobody else is talking about it. This podcast has been on for at least 6-7 months now, since last year, I think, end of last year. So, and I have not heard any buzz about it other than just the people who are going on it. But it must be doing really, really well, because they're getting more and more submissions for people to come in. So check it out. It's extraordinarily educational. It really is. And
it absolutely is. Highly recommend it.
And they do a very good job of showing that it's not just a situation that women face as well. Men can be stalked. Women can stalk other women. Men can stalk men.
Men can stalk other men.
Men can stalk women. So it's not just this one-sided kind of thing. It's an equal opportunity crime.
Yes.
And it is a crime. And we're going to get into this. We're going to get into this.
At the end of the day, stalking is a crime. It is hard to prove, but stalking is still a crime. Period. Period. Hard stop. It's a crime. It's a felony crime.
Angie will definitely be arguing how we've all sort of forgotten about that fact when we get to Creepshow art, which is very true. She's very right.
Hard stop. So
that's where we're going. That's what we've been up to. This is where we're going. I'm actually looking forward to these conversations. I think they're going to be very important to have and very fascinating. And they're things that we're very passionate about, and that always ends up being the best kinds of conversations when we are passionate about it. So please mark it down. Please come if there's something you're interested in. Please contact us offline. Twitter is listed on our page. We have email addresses listed on our page, Twitch page, and our Facebook page. So get in touch, leave comments, let us know again how you're feeling. If there's something you want to talk about, just any feedback, we appreciate it. Thank you to everybody who's in the chat today and those who are watching. We see you. We appreciate all of you. We love the conversation, and we always enjoy it when you guys feel something we're talking about. If you enjoy our content, like we said earlier, go back and listen to some of the other stuff, the earlier content. It's all good as far as I'm concerned. I'm biased, but I do actually think it's really good. Like I said, I feel very good about the content I'm putting out here. It's not all on Twitch; it's all on YouTube. And
Yes,
I've said it before. I laugh because I lost subs on YouTube once I started doing this content, but I love this content so much more than I ever did the other content. But anyway, check it out there. I'll take the L on YouTube. Everything's there. It's all in the upload. It's all live streamed. None of this is pre-uploaded content. It's all in the live stream portion of the channel. If you enjoy this content again and you want to support us, please consider liking us and subscribing to us on YouTube. Consider following us here on Twitch and subscribing to the channel here. That is a way to support the channel by purchasing a subscription to it. Everything that you get, any money that comes into the channel goes right back into the production of it. We appreciate all the support that we get from our listeners on Twitch. We really love this community. We love the audience we have here. They seem to be very, very into discussion and topical discussion at that, and having a good time as well. So if you enjoy the content, please consider supporting us either by making a donation, Venmo, Cash App, or supporting the stream by subscribing to the channel. If you're looking for other content to try out on Twitch, if you're new to Twitch and trying to find other things to listen to, watch, check out the listing of Twitch streamers that we have linked off of the channel. We have gamers, we have DJs. Some of the best music DJ streams we've listened to have been on Twitch. We have some fantastic DJs. We appreciate all of their support. They've all helped us out so much when we started this channel. Check out our gaming streamers, Toasty. Check out my husband, Man Called Matt, who streams Warframe, and I think he's doing Fortnite now. He is so close to hitting affiliate status. He just needs a few more folks to get in on the chat or watching. So help him out there. We want to get him there. He does a daily stream every day. He's doing 100 days of streaming. Get in on that. Check him out. He's my husband. I'm biased, but he's also adorable and he plays really well. So he's a good guy. Angie, as always, it's been fantastic to see you and to spend this time talking. Thank you for letting me run my mouth for an hour and a half. I always appreciate it so much.
I love listening.
I love hearing you listen and giving me your feedback. And I look forward to the next couple of streams because I know you have some really, really, really strong feelings and opinions, and I'm looking forward to hearing about them because we share some of them, and you have a very good perspective on a lot of this. So I'm excited for you to share it with everybody. So thank you for being here. Thank you for staying up late to accommodate my work schedule. You are not invited.
Now that you're making
I would not be
bucks.
Without you. Yeah, right.
You can take that cash, that paycheck, and make it rain.
$1. Yep. Right back. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in at our new time. So 7 p.m. PDT, Mondays, Wednesdays. Colleen and I will be back this week. I got to just text her and find out what time works for her. We will be reacting to insane crap on the internet. We have a Long Island edition for scheduled. So Colleen and I are both from Long Island. We grew up 30 minutes away from each other. We are well versed in our Long Island culture. We have some very, very specific Long Island content to look at this week. We like Bridezillas. We got that. We can't wait. It's going to be a good time. So I will put up that information when it's ready, but it'll probably be Thursday. I have to confer with her. She's on vacation this week, so she should be able to make it. So let me know if she can. But anyway, Thursday, wait for that. But anyway, we'll be back here Wednesday, 7 p.m., talking about the Creepshow art phenomenon and getting aggravated, I guess. I have no idea.
Getting aggravated.
Angie, it's been fun. Thank you so much
again, my dear.
Everybody else, have a great evening. Everybody. It's been good to see all of you. Have a great night.
Bye.